Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Varudika Charja Ashtotar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Varudika Charja Ashtotar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Praresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of August 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 5, the creative impetus, Chapter 2, the activities of Maharaja Agnidhra. And this is a new chapter, Chapter 3, which is entitled Ṛṣabhadeva's appearance in the womb of Merudevi, the wife of King Nabhi. And this is the chapter summary. In this chapter, the spotless character of King Nabhi, the eldest son of Agnidhra, is described. Wanting to have sons, Maharaja Nabhi underwent severe austerities and penances. He performed many sacrifices along with his wife and worshipped Lord Vishnu, the master of all sacrifices. Being very kind to his devotees, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was very pleased with the austerities of Maharaja Nabhi. He, the Lord, personally appeared before the king in his four-handed feature, and the priests who were performing the sacrifices began to offer their prayers to him. They prayed for a son like the Lord, and Lord Vishnu agreed to take birth from the womb of Merudevi, the wife of King Nabhi, and incarnate as King Ṛṣabhadeva. Text 1. Prose. Shri Shuka Vacha not. Well, you're going to be able to. Just listen. Nabir apattikamo prajaya Merudeviya Bhagavantam yagya purusham avhitatma yajata. Word by words. Shri Shuka Vacha. Shukadeva Goswami said, Nabhi, the son of Maharaj Agnidhra, apattikamaha, desiring to have sons, aprajaya, who had not given birth to any children, Merudeviya, with Merudevi, Bhagavantam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagya Purusham, Lord Vishnu, the master and enjoyer of all performances of sacrifice, Abhita Atma, with great attention, Ayajata, offered prayers and worshipped. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued to speak. Maharaj Nabhi, the son of Agnidhra, wished to have sons, and therefore he attentively began to offer prayers and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the master and enjoyer of all sacrifices. I think we have to close this at least temporarily. They're doing a big dump here. Okay. Maharaj Nabhi's wife, Merudevi, who had not given birth to any children at that time, also worshipped Lord Vishnu along with her husband. Then there's a big long verse 2, which I won't read the Sanskrit to. Translation to text 2. In the performance of a sacrifice, there are 7 transcendental means to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 1. By sacrificing valuable things or eatables. 2. By acting in terms of place. 3. By acting in terms of time. 4. By offering hymns. 5. By going through the priest. 6. By offering gifts to the priests. And 7. By observing the regulative principles. However, one cannot always obtain the Supreme Lord through this paraphernalia. Nonetheless, the Lord is affectionate to his devotee. Therefore, when Maharaj Nabhi, who was a devotee, worshipped and offered prayers to the Lord with great faith and devotion and with a pure, uncontaminated mind, superficially performing some yajna in the line of pravargya, the kind Supreme Personality of Godhead, due to his affection for his devotees, appeared before King Nabhi in his unconquerable and captivating form with 4 hands. In this way, to fulfill a desire of his devotee, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested himself in his beautiful body before his devotee. This body pleases the mind and eyes of the devotees. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas-chasmi tatpataha tato mam tatpato gyatpa vishate tadanantaram. Now the revised translation. One can understand me as I am, says the Supreme Lord. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. One can understand and see the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the process of devotional service, and not in any other way. Although Maharaja Nabhi performed prescribed duties and sacrifices, it should still be considered that the Lord appeared before him not due to his sacrifices, but because of his devotional service. It was for this reason that the Lord agreed to appear before him in his beautiful bodily features. As stated in the Brahma Samhita 530, the Supreme Lord in his original nature is very beautiful. Venung kwanantam adavinda dalaya taksham barhavatang samasitam buddhasundarangam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although blackish, is very, very beautiful. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, we've heard all about Maharaj Agnidhra, how he consorted with Purvachitti, and he had 7 sons, who each got a Varsha in Jambudvip. And one of those sons was Nabhi. And the reason, especially why he's focused upon, is because he was able to get the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a son. And that son was Lord Ṛṣabhadeva, from whom we'll hear later in this canto. So there's a very nice point that's being made here, that even though Maharaj Nabhi was performing all of these different elements of sacrifice, sacrificing valuable things, acting in terms of place, and so forth. And this is in terms of what Prabhupada calls pravargya. Pravargya is I think, like karmakanda. It's you perform these sacrifices for material goals. But there are certain standards, and that's mentioned here. So he did that to some degree, but what really counted was his love, his devotion. This is what Krishna really responds to. Otherwise, you may perform all these things, but if your motive is simply material, then everything has to be perfect. Otherwise, you may get just the opposite of what you're looking for. In other words, on the material side, everything is very, very strict: time, place, circumstances, pronunciation, and everything else. Can you imagine if we had a problem with pronunciation? If you can't pronounce everything perfectly, you can't go back to Godhead? No, Prabhupada never said that. He wanted us to learn the pronunciation, but Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. He looks for the mood, for the actual feeling. So King Nabhi was a very sincere devotee, and he practiced these principles of sacrifice, which is what was going on in the time and place where he lived. But Krishna responded to the mood, and he appeared before him in his beautiful form, which is a very rare and wonderful reciprocation of any devotee. So Nabhi was obviously very advanced. And Prabhupada immediately cites this verse that he very frequently cited, Bhaktyama Babhijanati Yavanjastasmi Tatvataha. This is near the end of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is like summarizing his teachings and giving the essence of the essence. Again, he says in a few verses after this, 1855, now again I will speak to you the most confidential teaching. And we should know what that confidential teaching, those who've been around a little bit. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. He changes the ending a little bit, but it's the same idea. So the essence of all my teachings is, think of me, become my devotee, offer your homage to me, bow down to me, and worship me. And you'll certainly come to me. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. He's promising Arjuna. But we can also be Krishna's very dear friend. And the very next verse is like this super famous verse. Sarva dharmam padijajja mame kangsharanam vaja aham tvam sava papabhyo mokshi yasyami mashrita. Just give up all other dharmas. Everything I was telling you about karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, forget about it. If you just do this one thing, your life is perfect. Surrender utterly to me alone. Don't, no demigods or anything. And if you surrender it fully to me, I'll relieve all of your reactions, sinful reactions. I'll protect you from everything, and you go back to Godhead. So this comes a little bit before, how can we know God? How can, the fact is you can't know God. All you can do is perform devotional service so that He's pleased to reveal Himself to you. And this repeatedly happens in the Bhagavatam. You see whether it's Dhruva Maharaj or this Nabhi or many others, by praying and worshipping sometimes for thousands of years, they finally, Krishna appears to them, and sometimes then he agrees to appear as a son, as he is here. So that's the, so Prabhupada says, one can't see the Lord through the process of devotional service, or one can see Him through, and not in any other way. So what I wanted to, first, then Prabhupada quotes this second of the Govinda prayers, Venam Kwanandam Adavinda Dalayataksam. So the first three of the prayers are completely about Krishna and Vrindavan, beautiful, and herding the cows, playing the flute like that. So this one Prabhupada chose, second one in the series, Venam Kwanandam Adavinda Dalayataksam. So it's describing how he's playing, and Kwananda is very enticing melodies on the flute. Venam Kwanandam Adavinda Dalayataksam. He's got eyes just like the petals of a blooming lotus, blooming eyes. Barhavatanksam, he has a beautiful peacock plume on his head. Asitambura Sundarangam means that he's slightly blackish, and he's the color of a bluish lotus flower, and his limbs are very beautiful, being colored in that way. And then it decides all of this together, Kanda Bhakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. All these details, Vishesha Shobham, of his beauty, even attract Cupid, who attracts everyone else. Millions of Cupids. So in other words, he's supremely beautiful. So what I wanted to share with you today was some of the great jewels that we've been given as gifts, a description of Krishna's beauty. And we'll start out with this one principle, which is spoken by Lord Brahma in his prayers for creative energy in the third canto. I remember reading these for the first time. I was completely enthralled by these prayers. And he gives a very nice, this is text 11 of chapter 9 of canto 3. There's a lot of Sanskrit, so I think I'm going to probably just chant the first line of these verses. I have 5 or 6 verses I'll share with you. Tvam bhakti yoga padibhavararitsa rocha. What he's saying there, the translation, "Oh my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing. And thus their hearts become cleansed and you take their seat there in their heart. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you." Now, just think what that means, is that we're impure. We're trying to be devotees, we're advancing in the way we can. But I don't think anyone here can say we're seeing Krishna at every moment, in the heart or externally, right? But what we have been given in abundance in Srila Prabhupada's writings, the Nectar of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and others, Brahma Samhita, are beautiful descriptions of Krishna's beauty. In Sanskrit and in always the English translations, sometimes just the English as a nectar of devotion. And when we hear those and use our God-given ability to visualize, this is something that I've realized over the years. This whole generation that has grown up with, of course before, it goes back now to mid-20th century, TV. And now, all the YouTube and everything, there's always all these images flooding. What this does is tend to atrophy our ability to visualize from hearing. Isn't it? It's kind of, we just expect it to be given to us. So when you read the descriptions, are you actually seeing in detail, Krishna's flute and the peacock plume and the bluish color and all these different things? We can do that, but it takes some effort. But that effort is what it takes. That's how we can see Krishna through the ears. That's what Brahma says. The purer we become, and the more eager we are to see Krishna by the process of devotional service, then we see that it's all over the CC. There's just one verse chanted, and they go into ecstasy because they're actually experiencing it through the sound. How many times have we heard? It doesn't take long before you hear that the name is non-different from Krishna. Right? And that is even more than non-different. It's exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference. I've heard Prabhupada saying like that. which is like, wow, that's inconceivable. How is that so? You know, there's the name, and there's Krishna on the altar. But the original Krishna who's created everything, isn't there a difference? There's a difference in our because we're conditioned. So what that means is that, and this is very much emphasized, if you just chant Hare Krishna, and hear attentively and become purified, you'll see the name, form, qualities, pastimes. Just from chanting, you'll experience those directly. They come in order. You get the vision of the form, and then the qualities that Krishna has, which we have also in great detail, and then finally the pastimes, just from chanting. But along with that, we find the great devotees, and Lord Chaitanya is teaching us, they love to hear the descriptions of Krishna's Leela. Why is it that Lord Chaitanya chose to keep Ramananda Roy and Sarup Damodar as closest of the close when he was in Antya Leela in Jagannath Puri? Because they were at such a wonderful level of devotion that their chanting was so pure when they would describe Krishna's pastimes, mostly with Radha and Krishna and all these. Then Lord Chaitanya would be there. He would just feel he was right there. And he himself would describe so many things. I'm going to quote a few verses. And they were directly experiencing it. They're sitting in Jagannath Puri, but they're directly experiencing Krishna and Vrindavan and all these different things, just by hearing. So I wanted to share just a few of these verses that you can find in the books of Prabhupada. I chose only, there's so much other stuff we have now that I could quote. But this is all from Prabhupada's books. And these are verses that... So this is one in the 9th canto. Now at the end of the 9th canto, very end of the 9th canto, there's a description of the dynasties coming down, the other dynasty and everything. And it describes how then Krishna Balaram appeared. And there's a beautiful description there, a beautiful verse, which I'll give you maybe the whole Sanskrit too, about Krishna's face and how the residents of Vrindavan are always relishing the beauty of that face of Krishna, which we see every day here in New Dwarka. New Govardhan. Yasyananam makadakunda dacharukarna brajat kapola subagang sabilasa hasam Nityotsavam natatapurja shabipa bantyo nayo narasta mudita kupita nimeshcha. Now if anyone wants to memorize this verse, I will definitely help them. It's in the same meter as the Govinda prayers. It's not that difficult. Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments, such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful, his cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees Lord Krishna sees a festival. His face and his body are fully satisfying for everyone to see. But the devotees are angry at the creator of the disturbance, because he's created disturbance. What's the disturbance? The eyelids. You have to blink. And with that split second of not being able to see Krishna, they say, oh, we just lost a split second of seeing that wonderful beauty. So they curse him. Sometimes the gopis curse him. They become angry at the creator, Brahma, for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. Now just visualize for a minute how wonderful it would be to be so eager to see the beautiful face of Giridhari and Radharani there, that we couldn't wait for those curtains to open, and then we see them, just drinking it in just like that. And, I have to blink my eyes, See how wonderful that is? That eagerness is the sign of pure love. That's so, and it describes here Naryo Narasta, not just the ladies, but also the male people were also equally eager to see the face of Krishna. So that's one verse. Then, here's one from the famous Venu Geet chapter. I'll give you this one. Probably you've heard me chant. I made a poem out of this one. Now this comes just before the songs of the gopis. Venu Geet means the song that the gopis are singing, which features the flute. Practically every verse talks about the flute. Krishna's playing the flute. So of course, and you understand our acharyas have written commentaries, extensive commentaries on these verses, especially Venu Geet. And the first book, if you recall, Shiva Ram Swami wrote was called Venu Gita. He had consulted various translations of the commentaries. Gopi Pranadana was with us still and helped him. And he put that all together in one incredible book called the Venu Gita. And it just shows how our acharyas, means those who show us the way, they're meditating on the different things and expanding it, and through their transcendental vision, they're giving us more nectar. But here's like one of the root verses. Barhapidam Natavadavapu Karnayo Karnikaram Bimbrun Basak Kanakakapisham Baijayanting Chamalam Randran Veno Hadadasudeya Puriyan Gopa Vrindaya Vrindaranyam Sobadanamanam Pravishan Gita Kirtihi. With lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day with coward friends, who sing his glories sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So that's a picture there. You can see the picture. You can hear the flute. You can smell the flowers. Practically all the senses are there. You know, if you have the clarity of mind and the imagination. So we have to cultivate that. So that's another example. And in the same chapter, 2 verses later, the gopis begin their song, Gopya Uchu. And this is another famous verse. Akshan Batampalamidam Nabadam Vidama. I'm going to give you all the Sanskrit. So the girls are doing their chores, but they're also getting together and singing to each other. So they're sharing, you know. So it says, "Oh friends," one of them says, "those eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaja Nanda are certainly fortunate." So it's Krishna and Balaram. As these 2 sons enter the forest, surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision. Now one wonderful little insight of the Acharyas is that the gopis, the first 2 of these verses of this song, they're describing Krishna and Balaram because they're afraid that their elders will hear them just glorifying Krishna and they'll get suspicious. Why are they just, you know, so they do just Krishna and Balaram. But then after, by the 3rd verse, it's just Krishna only. They're just... So this is so those who have eyes, there's no greater object of vision. So we have eyes, we should be so eager to see Krishna and the wonderful paintings, and mostly through the descriptions, cultivating that desire to see Krishna. All right, 1 or 2 more. Now this is from the. I'm sorry. Well, this thing is acting up. But I happen to know this one by heart. So this is the verse where the Brahmins' wives. Now there's a good example. Rukmini and the Brahmins' wives, they didn't see Krishna at first. They just heard about him. And by hearing about him, they completely fell in love with him. By hearing the description. So, you know the story, how the Brahmins' wives, the Brahmins themselves are busy performing all these sacrifices. And Krishna tells, the boys were hungry, so they said, what can we do? So you go down to the Brahmins there who are performing these sacrifices, and you ask them for food. Don't mention my name. Now why did Krishna say that? Because he's known as a Vaishya. So he said, just tell him Balaram. In other words, these Brahmins are really strict about smarta. There's, you know, smarta Brahmins means that they're too much involved in the smriti regulations. So they might not be willing to give to a Vaishya, but they'll be ready to give to a Kshatriya. So you tell them in Balaram's names. So the first thing that boys do when they get there is say, well, Krishna and Balaram, they disobeyed that order. Krishna and Balaram are nearby, and they're hungry. Actually, the boys are the ones who are hungry, but that's their name. Can we please have some of the food that is going to take part in the offering? And they even knew the rules and regulations. Before such and such mantra that you chant, it's okay to give us something, you know. They didn't even answer them. They didn't give them a yes or no. Didn't look up from their mantras and their swaha and everything, you know. So the boys went back disappointed, you know. So Krishna they laughed. They said, okay, now you go to the Brahmins' wives who were all in a house. They had a special house for them. And you tell them that we're nearby and we're hungry, you know. So they did. And as soon as they heard that Krishna and Balaram were nearby, they immediately started packing up all the equivalent of tiffins, you know, to go. They didn't give those boys any food. They're going to go themselves so they can see Krishna. So they run out, you know, and the boys are following, and they finally see. And this is what the scene that they saw. This is Krishna that they saw when they finally came to the place where they were. They're all there with all their packages, and they're looking. Now what this says is, Shamam Hiranya Paridim Vanamarya Barha Dhatu Pavalana Veshamanu Vritangshi Vinyasta Hastamitadena Dunanamabjam Karno Paladika Kapolna Makabjahasam. Stupid thing, stop working. So what it says is that Shamam, beautiful blackish form, Hiranya Padidim, he's wearing that golden yellow garment that's effulgent, you know. Vanamalya, and a beautiful forest garland, not like our garlands here. I mean, these are great because they're offered to, you know, Prabhupada, of course. But very, very fragrant, you know. Like that one, we have one. You still have it, yeah. That when the spring comes, Guru Krishna Prabhu and his wife, they have a nice garden, and they bring, you'll see every Sunday now, they'll bring a beautiful garland, fragrant, full garland for Prabhupada they put on there. And that was the garland that I was lucky to wear on Monday, and Vijay will take it out. You'll see he's going to sell an entire set of Bhagavatam just on the base of that garland. Sorry, you have to fulfill that prediction now. Well, if you want to. Anyway, so... But you see, something gets a garland like that, you know, fragrant, amazing. It's going to definitely affect them. So they go on. So he's got this beautiful Vanamalya, which is a forest garland of at least 5 colors and very fragrant, and peacock plume, of course, and mineral pigments. The boys like to find these mineral pigments and draw designs on their own body. So Krishna is decorated with that. Pavalanatavesham, little sprigs of flower buds all over his body. And then the special feature of this verse is that he's got one shoulder. He's walking, he's strolling along in the forest, and he's got one hand over a friend's shoulder, like this. And with his other hand, he's twirling a lotus. That's also unusual. And then it says, Karno Paladika Kapola Makabjahasa. So his face is beautifully smiling. On each ear, he has a lily on each ear, Utpala. And his hair is hanging free, and it's decorating his cheeks and going as he's swaying as he's going here. So they're seeing all these details. I remember I called Vaisheshika one day for something, and he said, how would you like to hear a nice verse? And I started chanting this verse, and then he joined in. He knew this one. This is a really famous verse. And finally, 3:9:11. Okay, this is the one I did before. So that's all the verses I'll show you. But you see, this is just a small sampling of these sound vibrations that we've been given, and they're all beautifully, you know, created in the Sanskrit language, by which we can hear and visualize Krishna's form, and in this way we can see him. And the more we become pure, the more we'll actually see him, and more he'll actually reveal himself on that basis. That's what Brahma says when he says you can hear through, I can see through hearing. Shutekshita pato, Shuta ikshita pato, the path of hearing or seeing through hearing. So that's what Nabhi, he got this darshan of Krishna because he wanted to reveal himself to his sincere devotee who was praying so ardently that the Lord would appear to him. And we have similar things with Dhruva, where Dhruva was so sincere after a mere 6 months, you know, in Satya Yuga, it take 50,000 years would be that. 6 months, he gets the darshan of Narayan, you know. And then very significantly, because that sadhana that he was performing purified his desires. This is what we're trying. The whole thing is a practice of purification, everything we do. And what a large part of the result comes the more we do it attentively with devotion. I'm always reminded of this verse. I have it with me here, but Buddhi Grayam Atindriyam is described in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the chapter on, of course, Dhyana Yoga. But then it describes Samadhi. Now, Krishna makes it very clear that the object of meditation is me in the heart. Not me, but Krishna in the heart as a super soul. So it's ultimately bhakti, you know, remembrance of Krishna. So he says, in the state called samadhi or trance, the meditating devotee experiences the greatest happiness that can be experienced through buddhi grayam atindriyam. He's experiencing with his intelligence, which is transcendental to the senses. It's not a sense perception so much as a perception of the soul through the pure intelligence. And I was always very intrigued by that idea. But you can see how it is. When you read, when you understand, when you visualize, when you remember or memorize, this is all a function of the intelligence. This is the function of the intelligence, which is right close to the soul. There's the soul, the intelligence, the mind, the senses, like that. There's a hierarchy there. So that purification of the intelligence is what this is all about. Hearing the Shastra, thinking about it, contemplating. I was talking to our friend Deva Vrata. He was trained as a teacher, I think. Was it in school or at least in Mayapur? I think he was trained as a Bhakti Shastri teacher and stuff like that. And I was just hearing some of that teaching ability or whatever, speaking ability when he gives class. To me it's very entrancing, because I'm into the English. It's all very nice. And of course his bhakti is there shining through. But that use of the intelligence in hearing, reading, and this is why it's so important we have our Sangha. What do devotees do when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, when they understand I'm God, aham sarvasya bhavavo mattak sarvam bhavartate, he's declaring there, I am the source of everything, everything emanates from me. That's just like the first of the Chaturshloki verses in Bhagavatam. Ahamevasame agre nadya yat sadasaparam. Before there was anything, there was me. Before there was any material manifestation, I still existed. That means that I'm the source of all material energy. So in the first half of that first 10.8, which is the beginning of the 4 central verses in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, everything emanates from me. Aham mattak sarvam bhavartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvata. Understanding this, those who are intelligent, they worship me with all their hearts, sincerely. How do they do that? Next verse. Matchitta matgata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantastamam tushanti chadamanticha. So they place their minds on me. And the best way we have to do this, we know, is chanting the holy name. Again, we're back to sound vibration as the key. Hearing, chanting and hearing. And also all of these other transcendental sound vibrations. So matchitta madgata prana, they dedicate their life to me. Okay. And then what do? Bodhiyantak paraspadam, they come together and they glorify Krishna together. This is what Sankirtan is all about. You chant and I hear, I chant and you hear. This is what's going on. So by coming together and glorifying Krishna together. I remember in the old days, this is a devotee, I don't know if you knew of him. God, the names are leaving me now. But he was in LA and he would always carry a little book bag, and in the book bag was the nectar of devotion. And he would see a devotee and he would grab him by the arm and say, hey, Prabhu, you want to hear something from the nectar of devotion? He'd rip out the nectar of devotion and start reading, like that. Which is what Prabhupada wanted us to do. So we should read together, hear together, share realizations together, all based on Shastra. That's what devotees do, and they experience satisfaction and transcendental pleasure. Tushanti and Ramanti. This is how we enjoy. Read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya is, sannyasi, and his devotees are so renounced, but they would enjoy more than you can imagine by coming together and chant. And they wouldn't stop. They'd go through the entire night until they stopped, because Lord Chaitanya had his morning duties to perform. Something he was, finally the sun comes up. Okay. In other words, time disappears. You become completely enthralled. So this is all the intelligence working. You're hearing, you're understanding the meaning, you're visualizing, you're praying. I mean, why do we have so many prayers? Kunti's prayers, Dhruva's prayers, Lakrura's prayers in the Bhagavatam. They give us, we can use those prayers. In other words, if we pray like Kunti's praying to Krishna, we know that it's a bona fide prayer, right? So what does she say? Tvai me nanya vishaya mati manupate sakrit ratnamun vahataradha gange bhaugamadhanvati. O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. What a beautiful prayer. I just put it into English, no big deal. But that's an essential prayer. We can pray Krishna like that. Any devotee can pray like that. So the thing is, we may not be thinking that. Our mind is all over the place. We're doing that. I had to do this, or I missed my appointment. But then when you focus and you actually read, you can read the English or memorize the English to Krishna. You enter into the mood of the prayer. It's potent. It has power because it's right from the Shastra. So this is how we can experience, even on our level of, it's just what you may say imagination. It's not really imagination, it's reality. But we can also, by hearing and visualizing and entering in and being sincerely wanting to experience what's being described here. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And it's a wonderful thing. Here you have the Bhagavatam. We had so many verses, and it was kind of, okay, this is I would say, maybe I'm wrong, but the most detailed of examples in the Bhagavatam of a description of more or less, at least on the externals, a material seduction scene. Of course, we had that whole allegory that was also there with Puranjan. So you get that, But it's meant to be gone through, and you see it in perspective, and you say, okay, it's for a certain purpose, and the result is you get Nabhi, and then you have Ṛṣabhadeva, where you have all these essential instructions. So the Bhagavatam, sometimes you can't see how every verse relates to Krishna consciousness, but in the end, it always comes back to pure devotion. And we're going to really get some strong instruction from Lord Ṛṣabhadeva. You can brace yourself, because he's... Prabhupada he talked on that fifth canto, 5th chapter, verse 1, where Ṛṣabhadeva begins his instructions, about 12 different places, because I listen to lectures all the time. So when you get to, he's in India, and the book just came out, he's giving lectures on that verse to all the different congregations that he meets in different parts of India. It's an important verse. And he's talking about, hey, get serious. I based one verse in, but what's the first line? Don't waste this precious human life. I know. That's good. I know, but my little English thing. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through Bhakti Yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. He actually says austerity, which divine austerity. Within the realm of Bhakti Yoga, there's plenty of austerity. So the whole thing is pure. In other words, you want to enjoy? Of course we want to enjoy. We're part and parcel of Krishna. He's supreme Anandi, an enjoyer. So why wouldn't we want to enjoy? But all these millions and millions of births, we try to enjoy in the material world, and that produces the greatest misery. Material enjoyment is such a bad bargain. There's a little flickering happiness and a whole bunch of pain involved. I just had a great time with my girlfriend, Yeah, and then read in the 5th canto at the end about the hellish punishments for illicit sex. Millions of births embracing an iron woman. They force you to embrace hot iron, molten iron, and you don't die because you're just in your subtle body. Was it worth it? No. So that's all there in the 5th canto. Okay, so then we can perform divine austerity. And what does that have to do? Oh, let's get together and read Krishna Bhakti. That's the austerity. It's been made so easy, or have a kirtan. So anyway, this is the message that's coming through here from this pastime. That Krishna is looking for your actual sincerity in your mood. And if you're following the principles as they've been given, the Shastric principles, and you're trying your best, and you're praying from the bottom of your heart, and Trinapi Sunichena, you're in the Kali Yuga, you're desperate, I'm so unqualified, therefore you can chant from the bottom of your heart. That's the advantage of Kali Yuga. We're so fallen, obviously, that we need all the help we can get. And that praying in that mood, that moves Krishna. And he gives us so many things. Not that, probably, some of you maybe, Krishna will appear before you. But what he'll do is, he'll make arrangements in your life. Sometimes painful, he'll take away this, take away this, take away. I might as well become a Hare Krishna. I got nothing else to lose, I mean, that happens. You're dragging your feet. Yeah, I got so much else going on. I'll chant a little Hare Krishna. And then that's taken away. I thought I was going to quit my job so I could do more Hatha Yoga. So I would work at night in a hospital. I'd be in the night shift. And then in the daytime, I get a little sleep, and I go to every week, every day, I could go to the city. It's just a 20-minute drive. I could do a Hatha Yoga. That was my plan. So I quit my job. I got a good recommendation. Got another hospital. Got trained up to go on the night shift. But after being on the night shift for like 1 or 2 days, it was really spooky. you know, because I've been doing all this yoga and, you know, vegetarian, vegan. And there's a lot of ghosts in hospitals. A lot of people die there. And I was like spooked. There was hardly anything to do. It was a much smaller hospital. I said, I can't do this. You know, meanwhile, I was getting attracted to, you know, by halva and other parts of the Brooklyn Temple. So finally I said, this is crazy. I might as well just join, you know. I emptied out my bank account, gave it, and so then I said, yeah, this is Krishna's plan. You know, he took it all. And he says, for those who I show real mercy, I take everything away. Nothing else to do. I might as well chant Hare Krishna. It was a lot of mercy. So sometimes you can see your life is like that. I think this pandemic has done some of that. The people who are just interested, says, there's a certain urgency here, you know. I mean, I don't have so many years. Who knows what's going to happen next, you know. And you get a little more interested, means more receptive, more attentive in the classes, reading, you know, chanting more sincerely, in which Krishna, you know, takes it all away. Anyway, that's it may not be an accurate realization, but it's a personal realization. Any comments or questions at this time, local or remote? All right. Oh, Bob has a question, or maybe even a comment.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Last night we were in Krishna Lounge, and we were reflecting on
over here, okay.
Yeah, well, we were taking prasadam.
Yeah.
After class, and I was reflecting on how, and it's been mentioned many times in class this week, how, you know, the source of pleasure is the very source of misery. And
right in the Gita.
I was using Dhammaraj as an example a little bit, but I was just teasing him. But it's funny how you go to a group and, you know, a girl becomes attracted to you because maybe you're outgoing, you tell a lot of jokes, and then 6 months later it's like, you know, I don't know why you have to be, you know, so obnoxious, you know, doing the exact same thing you were doing, but, you know, the very things that attracts them to each other is what becomes the unattractive.
Yeah. Dukashadam tadapi dukkam. Yeah, that's the material energy. Is that the very same configuration? It could be abominable, you know, after it's attracted you, and it's everything's changing. You're changing, the world's changing, your perception's changing. Go ahead, Movina.
It mentioned the seven things that satisfy Krishna from yajna, and I didn't understand 2 and 3. 2 is acting in terms of time, and 3 acting in terms of place. The other 5 kind of make sense, but those 2 I don't exactly know what it's referring to.
Well, I can tell you what my little experience here when we had that whole project of building a new temple up in Escondido. So there was, now this of course it's all transcendental, but this is true for any project, according to the Vedic way. There's a certain time that's auspicious to lay the cornerstone or whatever we were doing like that. There's also, I forget what it is in Sanskrit, Vastu, thank you, which corresponds to feng shui, you know, the whole thing of where and just and how. So they were observing that, you know, the time we did it at a certain astrological time, and a lot of Indians came. It was unbelievable. It was like a little fire sacrifice, you know, oven thing for like 40, 50 people, so that they could all throw in their grains at the same time, you know, like that. So, but aside from that, when you're performing a material sacrifice, a good example is the one that Twashta was performing to invoke a demon who would kill Indra, to avenge his sons. Indra's killing his son. I don't know if you remember that. Vishwarup took on the role of a guru because Brahaspati was offended by Indra, and then he had 3 heads. And he also had some attachment to the demons because of his mother or mother-in-law or something. And so he was offering a few oblations to the demons, and Indra saw him. He lost it, as he always does, and he cut off his heads. So Twashta, who had encouraged his son to take up this role, became infuriated, the father, you know. They're all Brahmins. So he had all the Brahmins come, you know, and we're going to invoke a demon to kill Indra. But he was so angry that he chanted one mantra in reverse. And instead of getting a demon who would kill Indra, he gets a devotee, Chitraketu, covered by the demon's body, Vritrasura, whom Indra will kill and send back to Godhead. You know, and then Indra has to suffer twice for killing 2 Brahmins. So now he's got all these sinful reactions coming at him in the form of this tubercular woman. Do you remember that? She's chasing after him, and he has to hide underneath the water and breathe through a straw for like 1,000 years or something. I thought this would make a great movie, you know, when I first read it. But all because of he mischanted one syllable wrong. So that's the idea, is that you have that's in terms of place, you know, setting, and in terms of time, astrology, all these different things. But we don't care about that. It's good, you know. Of course, we try to do it, you know, Mangalarti at a certain time, but that's not the determining factor. You know, when you get in the middle of chanting and dancing, pronunciation, you know, you should try to pronounce correctly, but it's not essential. In other words, it's all based on direct devotion. It obviates all that stuff. So that's what.
Hare Krishna.
Hold on 1 second. Is that more or less it?
Yeah. Well, I guess that
Time, place.
Yeah, I guess that's why I thought it was. If that's the case, that's what I thought was kind of unusual about those two, because the other ones, it seems like the other 5 are things which we do care about, and those 2 kind of sound like they could just be referring to like the.
Yeah, that's why it says pravargya.
Yeah.
Which I think refers to material sacrifice. So he was doing, you know, what he had learned, you know, sacrifices, but he's doing it for Krishna, and his ardent desire was to get darshan. So Krishna just saw that part.
But all the other ones listed, it seems that we do really care about, like
Observing readily principles, eatables.
Going through priests, giving things to priests, giving whatever valuables you have to the yajna, everything. Seems
Yeah,
like those
because
things
those are universal principles. You know, in other words, we're sacrificing valuable things. Yes, we do that. You know, because as part of our services. So there's a lot of overlap, but when it's done for bhakti, the exact details are not essential. I mean, we give eatables, and some of the devotees are cooking. You know, they're not that expert, but if they do it sincerely, and then they also care to try to get better cooks, become better cooks, then you know, Krishna accepts it. He accepts the banana peel from Dwarka, was it? I think it was Uddhava. Vidura. It was sincerely offered. Yeah, so there's a lot of overlap, but ours just depends on bhakti. Can I? Vijay Krishna.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, my humble obeisances.
Mine also.
Thank you for your wonderful class. Prabhu, the translation says that in order to obtain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one of the items, one of the sacrifices is number 6, by offering gifts to the priests. So my question is as follows: in what measure offering a question to the priest is the same as offering a gift to him? Like right now, I am asking a question from you. You are a priest. Is it that offering this question is the same as offering a gift to you as the priest that you are?
Well, when it comes to, you know, completely devotional things, I take it as a gift, because it gives me a chance to speak about Krishna. So I wouldn't. It's not that I'm disappointed. Where are my gifts, Vijay? I've been giving you answers now for I don't know how long, a month.
Yes, more than that.
More than that. No gifts. It's not like that.
Well, I'm trying to say that my gifts have been the question.
I'm just joking, Vijay.
Yes, I know.
Your questions are all good questions, so they are gifts, not just to me, but to everybody who can understand and have their Krishna consciousness stimulated by them. So that is a gift. In fact, what's the greatest gift? Prema. Namo Mahabodhanyaya. Lord Chaitanya is the greatest munificent avatar, because he's giving love of Godhead freely. So when we go out and we try in our own way to chant the holy name publicly or give books and so forth, we're giving the greatest gift. People may not appreciate it right away, you know, but that's the kind of gifts that devotees want. If you can give me a nice shloka that I don't know, I'll take that anytime. You know, I'll also take Maha Prasad. Yeah, devotees, but that's one of the loving exchanges, giving and accepting gifts. And what devotees treasure is things related to Krishna, you know, remnants or things to help us remember Krishna. So you're doing fine, you know.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
I'm not much of a
Again,
priest.
Wonderful answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I think we can adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.